Stand up. Put your hands where we can see them. The principal hadn't even finished saying the next graduate's name when 6 police officers stormed across the football field. Parents stood up. Phones instantly came out. Graduation music stopped. Marcus Williams. An officer's voice echoed through the stadium. Stand up. Put your hands where we can see them. Thousands of people turned at once. Standing beside the front row was Marcus Williams, a 41-year-old black father wearing a neatly pressed navy suit with a small white rose pinned to his jacket for his daughter's graduation. His daughter, Ava, had just stepped onto the stage to receive her diploma. She froze. Dad? Before Marcus could answer, 2 officers grabbed his arms. Another officer pulled plastic handcuffs from his belt. Gasps spread through the crowd. Someone whispered, "I knew something was wrong with him." Another parent began recording. A teenage student shouted, "They're arresting her dad on graduation day." A woman in the crowd laughed under her breath. What kind of criminal comes to a graduation? Marcus never resisted. He slowly raised both hands. There has to be a mistake. The officer ignored him. Turn around. Click. The handcuffs locked. Ava dropped her diploma. It hit the stage with a sharp crack. Dad, please. He didn't do anything. She tried running toward him. A school security guard stopped her. The entire stadium watched as Marcus was marched across the football field in handcuffs in front of classmates, teachers, grandparents, cameras, and hundreds of cheering families whose celebration had instantly turned into public humiliation. The graduation ceremony collapsed into chaos. Some parents pulled their children closer. Others pointed phones directly at Marcus. Within seconds, the live stream already had thousands of viewers. Comments flooded the screen. Another criminal caught. Imagine embarrassing your daughter like this. This is why they waited until graduation. Marcus kept his head high. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He only looked toward Ava. "I'm sorry." She cried harder. "I know you didn't do anything." The officers reached the edge of the field. A black police SUV waited with its rear door open. The lead officer reached for the handle. Then, every police radio on the scene exploded with the same urgent voice. "Unit 7. Stop immediately." The officer frowned. "What?" Again loud and clear. "Stop the arrest. Hold your position." The officer looked around in confusion. What is happening? Before anyone answered, every officer's earpiece crackled at the exact same moment. One by one, their expressions changed. The officer holding Marcus's arm slowly released his grip. Another officer looked toward the stadium entrance. Then something happened that nobody in the crowd could understand. Without saying a single word, every police officer instinctively straightened their posture. The lead officer quietly removed his cap. Nobody knew why. Ava wiped away her tears. Marcus looked toward the entrance. A convoy of black SUVs had just entered the school grounds, and whatever was inside them had just changed everything. The convoy rolled slowly across the school parking lot. No flashing lights, no sirens, just 4 identical black SUVs moving with quiet authority. The cheering crowd fell completely silent. Even the graduation band stopped playing. Parents lowered their phones. Students leaned forward in their seats. Officer Daniel Brooks looked at his radio again. "Dispatch, who just ordered us to stop?" Only static answered. The first SUV stopped 20 yards from the football field. Its engine shut off. Then the second. Then the third. Finally, the fourth. No one stepped out. For several long seconds, nothing happened. The silence became unbearable. A mother whispered, "Is this Secret Service?" Another man shook his head. "No, look at the plates." Marcus remained standing in handcuffs. His daughter Ava struggled to hold back tears. "Dad, what's happening?" Marcus quietly answered, "I honestly don't know." The rear door of the lead SUV finally opened. A sharply dressed woman in a black executive suit stepped out first. She appeared to be in her early 40s. professional posture, clear earpiece, leather portfolio tucked beneath one arm. She scanned the entire stadium with calm precision. Then she spoke softly into her microphone. The scene is secure. Immediately, 6 more suited agents exited the remaining SUVs. Every movement was perfectly synchronized. None of them looked toward the crowd. Their attention stayed fixed on Marcus. Officer Brooks swallowed hard. "This doesn't feel right." One of the agents walked directly toward him. "Who's the commanding officer here?" Brooks stepped forward. "I am." The agent opened a black credential wallet for less than 2 seconds. Brooks's confident expression disappeared instantly. His shoulders stiffened. "Yes, sir." The crowd noticed the change immediately. Linda, one of the parents sitting near the front, whispered, "Why does that officer suddenly look nervous?" The agent looked at Marcus, then at the handcuffs. His face hardened. "Who authorized these?" Brooks hesitated. "We received an anonymous tip." "What tip?" "That Marcus Williams intended to disrupt today's graduation." The agent looked around the stadium. "Has he disrupted anything?" "No." "Did anyone see him commit a crime?" "No." "Did he threaten anyone?" "No." The agent paused. "So you publicly handcuffed a father in front of nearly 2,000 witnesses based entirely on an anonymous phone call?" Brooks couldn't answer. Behind him, several officers slowly exchanged nervous glances. The parents who had been filming moments earlier began lowering their phones. Some looked embarrassed. Others quietly stepped away from the front row. Ava looked at the suited agent with desperate hope. "Mister, my dad didn't do anything." The agent met her eyes. His expression softened for the first time. "I know." The entire stadium gasped. What did he just say? He knows? What is going on? The agent reached into his jacket. Everyone expected him to pull out another badge. Instead, he removed a sealed navy blue folder, stamped with a silver Federal Eagle. He handed it to Officer Brooks. Read the first page. Brooks opened it. Within seconds, the color drained from his face. His hands began trembling. One officer beside him whispered, "What does it say?" Brooks looked toward Marcus, then back at the folder. Before he could speak, a deep voice echoed from behind the SUVs. "Take those handcuffs off him." Every head in the stadium turned toward the voice. The stadium fell completely silent. Even the helicopters from a nearby news station seemed to fade into the background. A man slowly walked between the black SUVs. No bodyguards surrounded him. He didn't need them. He was in his early 50s. Perfectly tailored charcoal suit. Silver hair at the temples. Calm eyes that had clearly seen years of command. Every federal agent immediately stepped aside to clear his path. Officer Brooks recognized him instantly. His breathing became uneven. No, it can't be. The man stopped only a few feet from Marcus. His eyes moved to the handcuffs. Then to Ava. Then back to Officer Brooks. "I gave an order." "Why is this man still in cuffs?" Brooks immediately pulled out the handcuff key. His hand shook so badly that he dropped it onto the grass. One of the younger officers quickly picked it up. Click, click. The cuffs fell away. Marcus slowly rubbed his wrists. He looked at the stranger. "I don't believe we've met." The man smiled politely. "No, but I've known who you are for a very long time." The crowd exchanged confused looks. "What does that mean?" The man turned toward the microphone that had been left on the graduation podium. Without asking permission, he picked it up. His voice echoed across the entire football stadium. "My name is Robert Hayes. I serve as the Deputy Director of the State Bureau of Criminal Investigations." A wave of whispers spread through the stands. Brooks closed his eyes. Now everyone understood why the officers had suddenly stood down. Robert continued. 3 years ago, a task force uncovered a child trafficking network operating across 3 states. The stadium became silent again. The operation succeeded because one man risked everything to protect dozens of children before law enforcement could even reach them. Robert slowly looked toward Marcus. That man was Marcus Williams. Thousands of people stared at Marcus in disbelief. The same father they had called a criminal moments ago had once saved children's lives. Robert continued. Marcus wasn't a police officer. He wasn't an informant. He wasn't seeking recognition. He simply refused to walk away when innocent children needed help. Ava covered her mouth. She had never heard this story before. Marcus lowered his eyes. I never wanted anyone to know. Robert nodded. I know. Which is exactly why you deserve to be recognized. Several officers slowly looked away in embarrassment. Only minutes earlier, they had marched a hero across a graduation field in handcuffs. Now, the entire stadium was learning who he really was. Robert closed the federal folder. This morning, someone anonymously reported that Marcus planned to cause violence during today's ceremony. We traced that call. The crowd leaned forward. It was fake. Completely fabricated. Officer Brooks whispered, "Oh no." Robert's expression hardened. This wasn't a mistake. This was a planned attempt to publicly destroy an innocent man's reputation on the proudest day of his daughter's life. A gasp swept through the stadium. Parents immediately stopped looking at Marcus and started looking at each other. Someone in the crowd had set him up. But who? Robert slowly turned toward one section of the bleachers. His eyes locked onto someone sitting halfway up the stands. The person's face instantly turned pale. For the first time since graduation began, fear changed sides. Every eye in the stadium followed Robert Hayes. Halfway up the bleachers, a middle-aged man slowly stood. His face had gone completely pale. He looked around, hoping someone else would move. Nobody did. Robert pointed directly at him. Mr. Charles Bennett. You don't need to hide anymore. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Parents turned in their seats. Students whispered, Who is that? Charles forced a nervous smile. I don't know what you're talking about. Robert calmly nodded. We expected you to say that. One federal investigator stepped forward carrying a tablet. He tapped the screen. A large projector behind the graduation stage suddenly came to life. The entire stadium looked up. Security camera footage filled the giant screen. The timestamp read, 7/12 on graduation day. The video showed Charles Bennett sitting alone inside his luxury SUV parked outside a convenience store. He pulled out a second cell phone, covered his face with a baseball cap, then dialed 911. The audio played through the stadium speakers. A disguised voice said, There's a dangerous man named Marcus Williams coming to the graduation. I think he's armed. I heard he's planning to hurt people. The recording ended. The stadium exploded with shocked voices. That's him. He made the call. My God, Charles immediately pointed toward the screen. That proves nothing. Someone could have faked it. Robert never raised his voice. We thought you might say that too. The federal investigator tapped the tablet again. A second image appeared. Cell tower records, GPS tracking, phone registration. Bank records showing the purchase of the prepaid phone only 2 days earlier. Every piece of evidence pointed to one person. Charles Bennett. Officer Brooks looked sick. You arrested the wrong man. Robert slowly turned toward him. No. We almost ruined the wrong man's life. The difference hit every officer like a punch. Meanwhile, Ava walked slowly toward her father. Without saying a word, she wrapped both arms around him. The stadium erupted into applause. Marcus hugged his daughter tightly. I told you, the truth always catches up. Tears rolled down Ava's face. I never stopped believing you. Across the field, Charles tried taking a step backward. Another, then another. Until 2 federal agents quietly stepped into his path. One agent spoke calmly. Mr. Bennett, we have a warrant for your arrest. Charles's voice cracked. This is insane. I only made one phone call. Robert looked directly into his eyes. No, you made a false emergency report. You attempted to frame an innocent man. You disrupted a public event attended by thousands, and you deliberately targeted a father on the most important day of his daughter's life. Charles' knees nearly gave out. For the first time all afternoon, the cameras were no longer pointed at Marcus. Every lens, every phone, every pair of eyes had turned toward the man who tried to destroy him. And the graduation crowd finally realized the person they had judged first was the only innocent person on the field. Federal agents quietly escorted Charles Bennett down the stadium steps. For the first time that afternoon, nobody reached for their phone to record Marcus. Every camera followed Charles instead. The same crowd that had whispered about Marcus minutes earlier now stood in complete silence. Officer Daniel Brooks slowly walked toward Marcus. His police cap was tucked beneath his arm. His shoulders were no longer squared with authority. They were lowered with regret. He stopped only a few feet away. "Mr. Williams," Marcus looked at him calmly. Brooks swallowed hard. "I owe you more than an apology. I failed my badge today." The entire stadium listened. "I believed an accusation before I believed the facts. I humiliated an innocent father in front of his daughter on the most important day of her life." His voice cracked. "I'm deeply sorry." Marcus remained silent for a moment. Then he extended his hand. Brooks looked surprised. Marcus spoke softly. "Officer, making a mistake doesn't define you. What you do after the mistake does." Brooks slowly shook his hand. "I'll never forget today." Marcus nodded. "I hope not." Nearby, Ava finally picked up the diploma she had dropped when her father was arrested. She looked at it for a long moment, then smiled. The principal walked onto the stage holding a microphone. "I believe this graduation deserves to continue." The stadium erupted into applause. But before the ceremony resumed, Principal Sarah Collins turned toward Marcus. "Mr. Williams, would you and Ava join me on stage?" Marcus looked confused. "We're not here for attention." Sarah smiled warmly. "Today isn't about attention. It's about setting the record straight." Father and daughter slowly walked onto the graduation stage together. Every person in the stadium stood. One by one, parents rose to their feet. Students stood. Teachers stood. Police officers stood. Federal agents stood. Even Officer Brooks stood at attention. Within seconds, more than 2,000 people were giving Marcus Williams a standing ovation. The applause echoed across the football field. Ava wiped tears from her eyes. She whispered, "Dad, I've never been prouder to be your daughter." Marcus smiled. "I've always been proud to be your father." Principal Collins handed Ava a fresh diploma. "This one belongs in your hands, with your father standing beside you." The crowd cheered even louder. As Ava held her diploma high, Marcus quietly stepped back. He wanted the moment to belong to her. But Ava reached out and pulled him back beside her. "No, we earned this together." The stadium exploded into applause once again. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it arrives quietly, after everyone else has already made up their mind. If this story reminded you that truth is more powerful than assumptions, comment, "Truth always wins." And subscribe to Tale Fame for more unforgettable stories where courage, dignity, and justice always have the final word.